Clayton Smith leads the charge as the most important defenders for the Sun Devils in 2024.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. And stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in. Today, we are picking up where we left off last and taking a look at the most important Sun Devils on the defensive side of the football. Now, I had a really difficult time narrowing down this list to 5 players. In fact, if you're on YouTube, you will see that one of the spots does not have a player, but rather a position group. And we'll talk about that when we cross that bridge. But of these 5, there's a lot of emphasis on these players to play at an exceptionally high level for the Sun Devils defense to continue humming the way that it did last year. The Sun Devils defense was much better than the statistics would show you last year. They played sound football. The reason why the yardage or the points per game didn't look as good is because the offense just didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and it led to the defense being really tired and left on the field. Any defense is going to get exhausted at some point in time. Georgia is going to get exhausted on defense if their offense just does not do anything for them. So it wasn't the fault of the defense entirely. Were there faults? Absolutely. It wasn't a perfect unit. It wasn't one of the 5 best defenses in the country, but it was much better than people will realize. Now, heading into this year, there's change, but there's also some continuity that's coming back for the Sun Devils team. And there's several players that are returning that are going to be key and crucial for this defense to be able to play at a high level once again. Starting with the pass rush, and for me, the most important player on the defensive side of the football, Clayton Smith. Now, if you're new to the podcast, let me introduce you to one of the absolute darlings of the show, Clayton Smith. Edge rusher, former 5-star recruit, played at Oklahoma for, I think he was there 2 years, and then he transferred to ASU with, I think, 3 years of eligibility. He came on last year. He was banged up for most of the year. I think he was helped off the field like 3 times. He just was always nicked up, and it was a running theme for the Sun Devils last year is there was a lot of players who just dealt with injuries all year long. But you look at what he did when he was on the field, and this dude is just a blur off the edge. He's so strong. He's so athletic. He's so fast. He ends up with 4.5 sacks last year, which was second most on the team after Prince Dorbah and BJ Green each tied for 6 sacks for the team lead. He came on late. The last month, he had, I want to say, 4 of his 4.5 sacks. He arrived. You could see exactly why he was so highly touted when he was coming out of high school and why there was a lot of excitement when he decided to take his talents to Tempe, Arizona. Now going into this year, you are without BJ Green. He decided to transfer with his last year of eligibility. Prince Dorbah is back. And for what it's worth, I thought about putting Dorbah here. The reason I went with Smith is I think that Smith is really ready to tap in on just this monstrous season. And I think that Dorbah is very capable of repeating what he did last year as a 6-sack guy. Maybe even a little more. Because Dorbah did dominate the first half of the year and then kind of disappeared in the second half of the year due to injuries and stuff like that. Clayton Smith, this is a guy. it's very difficult to look at Smith, who, by the way, has added like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle to get bigger and stronger on top of the God-given speed and athleticism he already has. There's a lot of potential here for Clayton Smith. And if he does realize that potential, you have got your cornerstone edge rusher. You have got somebody who is going to be able to consistently generate pressure, get after the quarterback, disrupt the run, make things uncomfortable. You have a good pass rush. It helps every other level of the defense. It helps the linebackers. It helps the secondary. Clayton Smith could be a one-man wrecking crew. He is that talented. His upside is that large. This is a player who can easily be the best defender on the Sun Devils team, and somebody that could end up being one of the best defenders in the Big 12. His potential is there to eventually get to that point. Now, it's just a matter of arriving to that point. But that's why I have him as such an important player. Because if Clayton Smith clicks, if everything comes together and he is able to become a 12, 13 game performer, stay healthy, generate pressure consistently, not be a streaky player, not be hot and cold, he's going to do wonders for this unit as a whole. Suddenly the pass rush has a guy who's got minimum 4.5 sacks again. I mean, he could flirt with 10. This is a guy that can easily lead the team in sacks, have a good number of sacks too. And then look at the other opportunities it's had. It has. The linebackers suddenly have the threat of an edge rusher that makes the blitzing a little bit easier or forces things to the other side of the field because you're trying to avoid Clayton Smith. The secondary, quarterbacks are suddenly going to be making errant throws. They're going to be trying to do too much to avoid sacks. And what's that lead to? It leads to turnovers. Suddenly your safeties, your ball hawking safeties like Xavier Alford or Shamari Simmons are able to come down and reel down turnovers. There's a lot that goes right when you have a good pass rush. And Clayton Smith is at the forefront of that. And again, I think Dorbaugh's right there too. I'm really high on Elijah O'Neal. I brought him up before. There are players in this pass rush that I anticipate to have very big, very important seasons for the Sun Devils. But when you ask me to narrow it down, I have Clayton Smith at the very top of the list, not just for edge rushers, but as the most important player for the Sun Devils defense in 2024. We're going to transition to the interior of the defensive line as well as the linebacker spot with the players that I find to be the most important there. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Where are you getting those podcasts? Hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Moving along, the most important Sun Devils players on the defense. We're going to move to the interior of the defensive line. There are some very talented players here. You've got Justin Wadley, who is coming in from Cincinnati. Jacob Rich-Kangaika is coming in from Arizona. There are some youngsters on this team, but to me, the most important guy is CJ Fite. And with Fite, this is a big SOB. Like, this is the dude that you line up on offense and you go, crap, I got to play him for 60 minutes. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, and he's been working to become a better pass rusher. But to me, Fite's importance is going to go beyond the box score. First of all, Anthony Cooper, one of the veteran leading defenders on the team, regardless of position, tore his ACL earlier in spring ball. And he is going to be out for probably most, if not all, of the 2024 season. He was expected to play along the defensive interior and maybe bounce outside to edge rusher. He was a veteran. He was a guy that Arizona State has really valued his presence over the last several years. He's gone. So now looking at the defensive line, there's players for sure, but there's not a lot of guys who have a ton of game time experience, and there's nobody who has the amount of Sun Devils experience that CJ Fite has. He's a very talented player. This is a guy that I anticipate is going to have a breakout season. He came to Arizona State last year, was able to get his way onto the football field. He was able to stay healthy. He was able to be a consistent player. He anchors the line. He does a little bit of everything that you're looking for as a freshman. Now going into his sophomore year, you're hoping that he's going to be able to build upon those strengths. You hope that he can continue to become that anchor of the defensive line, be somebody that is going to dictate the pace of the game through the trenches. It's going to be a lot of pressure on CJ Fite. You also wonder whether or not the experience he has as a starting defensive tackle, even as a true sophomore, is going to lead him to potentially a veteran role for the team. I don't know. I wouldn't anticipate it simply because I don't think that's a fair expectation to give to a true sophomore player. But this is somebody that the team has held in very high esteem. And CJ Fite is somebody that they clearly have a very big interest in getting him onto the football field, somebody that they really like. I would not be surprised if CJ Fite was one of the most important players on the defensive front, not just the interior, but the edge as well. A lot is going to come down to him. And he could have some help from Wadley, from Kongaika, from Tristan Monday, or anybody else along the defensive interior. There's guys there to help out. I just look at CJ Fite and I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of pressure there for you to play at a very high level, even as a true sophomore, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think he's up to the challenge. I think this is a cornerstone player for you, but this is going to be a big year for CJ Fite. He is one of the most important players. Now, at the top of the show, I mentioned I could not narrow it down to one player, and instead I have a position listed, and that would be linebacker. On my little notes on the screen that you can see on YouTube, I just have listed veteran linebacker. The reason why is, as I have mentioned on the show many times, I do not know who the starting linebackers are. There are 3 guys who are coming into the transfer portal. There's 2 main guys who are returning from last year who had a significant role. And there's a lot of other guys on the roster that are going to make some noise as well. I don't know how it's going to look. What I do know is that ASU is going to need at least one of their veteran linebackers to inherit a big role this year. And there's 4 guys that could be that veteran linebacker for the team. 3 of them are the transfers. Zyrus Fiaseu, coming from San Diego State, Jordan Crook, coming from Arkansas, and Keyshaun Elliott, coming from New Mexico State. I also added the veteran for the Sun Devils, Caleb McCullough. These 4, I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form if they all played pivotal roles for the Sun Wolves. I think that you're going to see the linebacker position have a lot of rotation this year because there is a lot of talent. I'm not mentioning Tate Romney, who was top 5 top 5 in tackles for the Sun Devils last year. Crew Jackson is back, who wasn't able to get onto the field last year. He's a very talented player that I'm excited about. You have Kavian Thunderbird is returning. There's a lot of players here on this linebacker depth chart, and it's really difficult to sit there and go, yep, that's the one. That's the starter. In fact, you could probably pull 2 of these guys, and they would be the starters. You could shuffle this lineup for the entirety of the year and have 12 different starting lineups for your linebackers. It's going to be important that you get consistent high-level play out of any one of these guys. It doesn't matter if it's Zyrus Fiaseu and Caleb McCullough for 12 games. It doesn't matter if it's Keyshaun Elliott and a youngster like Kavian Thunderbird. It doesn't matter if it's Jordan Crook and Tate Romney. Whoever it is, you need one of the veteran linebackers, at least one, to play at a high level. And it goes for a lot of different things. It's obviously important to have that kind of a player for the statistical side of it. You need someone to make the tackles. You need someone that's going to be able to be sideline to sideline, be a consistent, reliable defender, whether that is the open field tackles, whether that is being able to drop into coverage, whether it's dialing up a blitz, or just being the veteran out there who's able to call things out, be the quarterback of the defense. You need one of these veteran linebackers to do that for you. I don't care if it's Fiaseu, Elliott, Crook, McCullough. Any one of those 4 needs to be able to take a large role in 2024. They're going to be pivotal for this defense. And I also would not be surprised if 2 of these guys ended up starting for the whole year. Like, at the end of the day, I don't mind. I don't care who starts for 12 games. I like these linebackers. I think there's a lot of talent with all of them. I don't have any preference one way or the other if they go with 2 young guys or if they go with 2 veterans or a combination. You just need them to play at a high enough level. It's going to be really important. Last year, ASU got good play out of their linebackers with Tre Brown and Tate Romney and Caleb McCullough. They were able to give you good production at the linebacker spot, and it's one of the things that helped the defense hold together. That's going to be the same case this year. Especially Tre Brown is gone. Tre Brown, one of the 3 most important Sun Devil defenders from last year. So you need someone to be able to step up and inherit that role. Like I said, and I'll say it again, I don't care if it's Fiaseu, Elliott, Crook, McCullough. One of those veteran linebackers needs to be able to inherit that role. They do that, the defense is going to continue to hum. They're going to be a talented unit. They're going to be one of the more consistent, reliable, dependable units on the defense, maybe on the team. There's a lot that comes down to these linebackers. Any one of them could start. When we get closer to the season, maybe I can narrow it down and I can say, oh, well, X linebacker is going to be really important. Right now, we're in the dark. We don't know. Till then, any of these guys, very pivotal. We're going to go ahead and talk about the secondary now. I've got 3 guys I want to talk about. One of them, of course, is an honorable mention. We'll get into it in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One more time, wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Wrapping it up, jumping to the secondary. I've got 2 guys listed as my most important defenders. One guy who I don't even know if I call him an honorable mention. It's like a coin flip. Like I know on my template, on my list, that I only have 2 guys listed. But as soon as I started the show, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I could leave him off. Let's talk about those 2. The first, and the guy I listed, is Cole Martin. Martin, former 4-star out of Basha High School, coming back to Arizona State after playing a year at Oregon. He is going to play nickel for you. And there's a few things that come with that. First of all, you are inheriting the role that Jordan Clark left. And Clark was one of the most, I might say he was the best defender for the Sun Devils the last 3 seasons. He was that crucial to everything that you did. He was able to blitz. He was able to play near the line of scrimmage. He obviously did a lot of cover stuff. He could play free safety. Jordan Clark lined up anywhere and everywhere for the Sun Devils defense the last couple of years. He is gone. He transferred to Notre Dame. Cole Martin is coming in. He is going to inherit that position. Will he inherit the role? You'd love to see it. Is that fair? Probably not. But he is incredibly talented. This is a defender for the Sun Devils that could realize his potential and just break out big time this year. We'll wait and see. But the thing that we have to kind of teeter on, the line we have to walk here, is what is fair to ask out of Cole Martin. He's taking over Jordan Clark's position. Can he take over not Cole Martin? He's taking over Jordan Clark's position. Can he take over Jordan Clark's role? It's 2 different things. I don't know. And I don't know that it's fair to ask that of him. But in the same token, you kind of need him to, because of how pivotal it was to have Clark's versatility in the secondary and line up all over the place and wreak havoc wherever he was. You need that. Hopefully you can get it out of Cole Martin. Bottom line, though, you just need him to be able to step into a role that the Sun Devils have a lot of emphasis on and play well. Now, the other guy I want to mention, and I didn't put him on the list, and the more and more we get into this podcast, the more I think, the more I talk, the more I regret not putting him on here. So consider this my 6th most important player. That's LT Welch. Welsh is going to be your number 1 corner this year. He's your number 1. He's your boundary. He is going to be going up against some of the best receivers in the Big 12 this year. LT Welch, transfer from LSU, former 4-star recruit, comes to Arizona State. There is a hole. Ro Torrence is gone. ASU is looking for a new number 1 corner. There are options that they can consider, including Ed Woods, the returning veteran corner for the team. LT Welch comes here, battles it out. It appears he is your number 1 corner. Ed Woods enters the transfer portal. Boom. Signed, sealed. I can't remember the whole saying. Signed, sealed, put a stamp on it, certified, all that stuff. LT Welch is your number 1 corner until further notice. You still have training camp. There's plenty of guys that are very talented. You've got all sorts of freshmen that are coming in, like Chris Johnson, Tony Lewis and Kuba, Ronnie Bimmage. You've got Keith Abney, who's coming back. You've got Javen Robinson, who came in through the transfer portal. There is depth here at corner. But LT Welch might just be the most important guy. He might be more important than Cole Martin. The reason why is he's number 1. He is going to line up on the best receiver that opposing teams have. He is going to be tasked with, hey, this is X playing for the blank college. You are going to be following X around for 60 minutes. Limit him. That is going to be on Welsh. The good news is, from what we saw during spring ball, he looks impressive. You can tell why LSU, a very well-known defensive back college, recruited him, and you could tell why he was a former 4-star kid. Will it translate at Arizona State? That's what we're going to see. but I do really like what Welsh showed. And I will tell you that I went into spring ball not expecting anybody to really like blow up. There was always going to be this perception of there's a lot of change coming to the secondary. We need to be patient. Welsh, while I wouldn't say he was like, oh my God, you can't stop talking about this guy, he definitely got your attention of like, that might be corner one. You might already have it figured out. You might have your Ro Torrence replacement. If he continues to play well in training camp, he is going to have that role, at least to start the year. He is potentially going to be your number one cover man. No pressure, Mr. Welsh. Last guy I want to mention here, I went back and forth at the safety spot between Xavier Alford and Shamari Simmons. I opted to go with Simmons, and the reason why is because Simmons played last year. Alford is coming back. There's no fair expectation for him. Obviously, he's been on the show more than once. I'm a big fan of Alford. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the conference this year. But with that in mind, that's not a fair expectation. We need to be able to say, hey, Xavier, I know that you didn't play last year. Take your time getting on the field. Take your time getting adequated back to the speed of the game. We'll get back to it down the road. But for now, just get better. Just continue working on yourself. That's where we should be for asking Xavier to get back to where he is. With Shamari, he played last year. He was your leading tackler last year. He had multiple turnovers. This is a secondary that's looking at a lot of change. His partner in crime, Chris Edmonds, is gone. Jordan Clark is gone. Ro Torrence is gone. Ed Woods is gone. He is your lone returning starter from last year's secondary. D Ford is gone. There is pressure for Shamari Simmons to be able to play at a minimum at the level he was playing last year. And last year he was playing very, 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 very quality football for the Sun Devils. He was playing good football for the Sun Devils. You need him to be able to match what he did last year. Hopefully, the rest of this secondary, as talented as it is, can make that job a little bit easier for Shamari Simmons. But nonetheless, there is going to be some pressure here that is placed on Simmons' shoulders of, hey, you need to do what you did last year again. Hopefully, you can take that game to the next level. Nobody would complain if we had more turnovers this year. Not even just from Simmons. Like, if you went from having, what they had, 6 interceptions last year, 5 interceptions last year, and doubled it or tripled it, everyone would be pretty happy with that. Even if Simmons only had 1 interception again, you're just looking for that number to increase. You're looking for the Sun Devils defense to take that next step forward, to go from a really sound quality defense to forcing some more turnovers, which is something they didn't really do at a high rate last year. They were able to generate pressure. They were a pretty good tackling team. The next step is the turnovers. And Simmons will be tasked with getting Arizona State to that position where they can start forcing more turnovers. He is perhaps the leader of the defense. He is the most veteran guy. He's played the most football. He played a whole season for the Sun Devils last year. He was healthy. He played at a high level. There's a lot of pressure on Shamari Simmons this year. And I know I highlighted Clayton Smith as perhaps the most important player for the team. Simmons is not far behind. Simmons is going to be tasked, right, wrong, or indifferent, with commanding this defense. He's the guy. Good news, I really like him. Based on the way he played last year, I think that Simmons, at worst, is going to mimic his production from last year and be a quality good player. At best, maybe he becomes a really, 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 really good defender for ASU. maybe he starts building some momentum for the second stage of his career. Simmons is going to be pivotal this year. Those are what I end up doing. 7 most important players, 6 most important players, 7 most important players, plus all the veteran linebackers. Who are you guys looking forward to? Who's the most important defender, in your opinion, for the team? Let me know in the comments, or you can hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back again tomorrow, and then on Sunday, I have a special treat with you guys as we sit down with another Arizona State Sun Devils football player. I'll see you then. Till next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.